Hi guys, Mr. Mix here once again, and today we'll be looking at the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is a way of solving quadratic equations that cannot be factorized. Okay, so let's just get into it quickly. Let's get into it quickly. Okay, let me just open a new page. Okay, so the quadratic formula. Okay, so the quadratic formula is given by minus b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, and then the general form of a quadratic equation is this. Okay, so which means a is the number in front of x squared, and it can never be zero. A must always exist. If a is zero, then it's not more a quadratic equation. It can be any kind of equation, but not quadratic. Okay, our b is the number in front of x, and our c is the number that does not have x at all. It's what we call the constant. Again, irrespective of how the equation is rearranged, the point remains that a is the number that has the squared, that's in front, is the coefficient of x squared basically. B is the coefficient of x, and C is the one that is a constant. Okay, so I have some questions queued up already for the quadratic formula. Let me just erase this quickly. And then we get started. Okay, so we have 3x squared plus 8x minus 20 is equal to 0. Okay, we have 3x squared plus 8x minus 20 is equal to 0. So in this case, our a is 3 because I told you a is the number in front of x squared. Our b is 8 and our c is negative 20. Okay, so let's just go ahead and put this into our formula. That gives us minus b plus, oh, sorry, let me just put it indirectly. That'll give me minus 8 plus or minus square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 3 times negative 20 all over 2 times 3. Okay, so before I go on, let me just quickly say something. How did I know that I'm supposed to use the quadratic formula? Okay, look at this statement I circled here. The moment you see 2 decimal places, sometimes you see 3 decimal places, sometimes you see 4 significant figures or what have you, that is an indication that the equation cannot be factorized and thus will need the quadratic formula. I'll say that again. Now, the moment you have an equation in which you're told to express your answer maybe as 3 significant figures, as 3 decimal places, as 2 decimal places, the implication is that it cannot be factorized and thus will need the quadratic formula. Okay, and then that's what we do. So we now move on, and that now gives us so that will give us minus 8 plus or minus. So let's look at this. 8 squared is 64. You can see I've not used my calculator up to this point. Obviously, to be under the calculator paper, but then just try as much as possible to avoid mistakes and do the ones you can do by yourself. Okay, so you have minus 4 times 3 times minus 20. Okay, minus 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 20 is 240, but you would notice that you have 2 negative signs, so minus times minus is plus. So that will give me plus 240 over 2 times 3, which is 6. If you just permit me to just continue at this place here. So that is minus 8 plus or minus square root. 240 plus 64 is going to give me 304. And then you have all over 6. Okay, so at this point, what we'll now be doing with our calculators is to get the square root of 304. Okay, so we get the square root of 304. And what's the square root of 304? Put the values in your calculator. You put the values in your calculator, right? And then that gives you that square root of 304 is 17.4. So this gives you minus 8 plus or minus 17.44 all over 6. Okay, so now what the plus or minus means is that you're going to have 2 different answers, like I said at the beginning. So the first answer is going to be Let me just rule this here again. The first answer is going to be minus 8 plus 17.44 over 6. I'm using the positive now. Okay. So we just say 17.44. That's just basically like saying 17.44 minus 8. Okay. I'll just say 17.44 minus 8. Minus 8. That gives 17.44 minus 8, which is equal to 9.44. This is 9.44, and then you do 9.44 divided by 6, and that will give me 1.57. Okay, so the first answer is 1.57. The first answer is 1.572 because the question says two decimal places. And I'll go to the second one again, which is now negative 8, negative 17.44 all over 6. Okay. Okay. That gives me negative, that's negative 25. Let me just move it upwards so I'm not just trying to, that's negative 25.44 divided by 6. And that gives me 4.24 negative 4.24. Okay. I know I was a bit rushed because I believe it's a concept that can be easily understood if you follow the processes. Okay, so that's how you solve a formula that has the quadratic that involves the use of the quadratic formula. Again, you identify this by noticing that the question will tell you to express your answer in a particular degree of accuracy, either 2 decimal places, 3 decimal places, 3 significant figures, 4 significant figures. Whatever they tell you to do, that makes you realize that you're dealing with nothing but the quadratic formula. Okay, so let's try another one quickly. Let's look at this. Let me take a more difficult one. Okay, let's look at this one. Please hit the pause button, attempt it, and then hit the play button and see if your answer is the same thing with mine. Okay, so that means here A is 3, B is negative 2, and C is negative 10. Okay, so rule your line like this. So that's negative 2. Our formula is negative b plus or minus square root of b squared, negative 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so this is negative 2. So that's minus 2 basically, plus or minus square root of b squared, which is negative 2 squared, minus 4 times 3 times negative 10 divided by 2 times 3. Okay, so moving forward, that gives us 2 plus or minus square root of 4 plus 120 all over 6. Again, let me explain something at this point. When you did not, this first number, this is where students make mistakes. So this place, it can never be negative. This place here I'm circling in red can never be negative. It will always be positive. So even if your B is negative, by the time you square a negative number, we know it gives us a positive number. Okay, so don't be tempted to make that kind of mistake. Okay, so this one gives you, let's continue with the blue marker. So this gives me 2 plus or minus square root of 124 all over 6. Okay, let's remember that there is now a no calculator aspect of your exam. So that means this same question, you could be told to leave your answer in short form. Okay, so you must be able to get that done. Okay, so quickly, so that's square root of 124, and that gives me 11.12. So I have 2 plus or minus 11.14, I beg your pardon, all over 6, so which gives me 2 plus 11.14 over 6, or 2 minus 11.14 all over 6. Okay, so 11.14 plus 2 divided by 6, that gives me 2.19 for the positive one, or 2 minus 11.14, that gives me negative 9.9.14, and then you divide that by 6, and that gives me negative 1.52. That's negative 1.52. Okay, so those are the two answers. Okay, so I must say at this point that irrespective of what you've done, kindly ensure you cross-check this with your calculator. Always cross-check with your calculator. You cannot be too sure in an aspect like this. Okay, so that's how you solve the quadratic formula. So let me re-emphasize again. The quadratic formula is often used when the equation cannot be factorized. And the best way to identify it is that you'll be told to solve a quadratic equation to a particular degree of accuracy. 2 decimal places, 3 decimal places, 4 decimal places, and all. I hope this video was very helpful. Please don't forget to follow to subscribe to Mr. Omix Maths to get more videos like this. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.